Welcome to Leadership Conversations, the untold secrets of the C-suite. I will be speaking with industry leaders on hot and trending topics. Enjoy the podcast. Today we have with us Nancy Ho. She is an executive coach and business breakthrough in Singapore. Nancy, a warm welcome to you. How are you today?
I'm very well, and thank you for inviting me on your show.
Fantastic to have you here indeed. And today we're going to talk about the paradox of success, the hidden struggles of the C-suite. And this is obviously a topic that I'm very excited about. Nancy, I wrote a book about the isolation in the workplace and so on. But I'm really looking forward to hear from you today and to the listeners what you have seen in this space. But before we jump into the topic, could you introduce yourselves to the listeners, please?
Yes, as you already introduced my name, Nancy Ho, aka also known as Happy Nancy. Right. I've been in the business for the last 26 years. Time passed. And there's only one thing that I've been doing, although I say same, but different, but there's only one thing I've been focused on doing. It's to help my clients, people that I meet, to take them from point A to point B, not living a life of regrets. So it's not just about living a full life, but living a life they truly desired and not a compromised one. Too often we have seen people could be very successful, but they compromise somewhat. Could be the family elements, could be the health elements, that's even worse, or something of that sort. So I believe in living a full life. The word balance can be a bit overused. All right, but I'd rather look at it as a full life that we are pleased with ourselves. I think that is super important. And that's what I've been doing all my life.
Exciting, yes. Nancy. And I love how you say that it's about living a full life. And indeed, the term balance is a bit overused. It's almost like we hear work-life balance. Come on, what is that? It's about living whole and complete. I love that. So let's jump into the topic of today then, the paradox of success, the hidden struggles of the C-suite. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit what you see when you're working with your clients.
Not only actually how it all started. Of course, I can't have started this paradox thing from the very beginning. All right. From the very beginning, yes, I have been a life coach. I help people to, live through their life, overcoming their personal or even professional issues and so on and so forth. And at the height of my success, so-called I have it all, but I feel a void. I feel that certain emptiness, which I cannot even explain. Like, it's like, hey, what is that to complain? I've got this and that and everything else, right? I'm not saying here to compare to anybody, but just with myself, I'm pleased, more than happy in that sense of achievement. But in the sense of well-being is another story altogether. So then I did some so-called deep searching, and then I realized, well-being is not some airy-fairy thing that a lot of people tend to go, say, go for a retreat and go for meditation and go for this and that, and you feel good. But it's really, truly feeling fulfilled. And fulfillment is something, it's not natural. Strangely, it's not natural, all right? So then when I realized that fulfillment is everything, regardless of how much we have achieved, or whatever we're going to progress, all right, fulfillment is key. So because of that, then I went about, all right, first, of course, myself, identifying the core or the root cause of why I'm not fulfilled. And so the same I've done for my clients and the people that I coach. Because I do two things, right? One is on my one-on-one clients, and another one is where I do my group coaching for the executives and more. Yes.
Right, that sounds very exciting. And let's dig a little bit deeper on that. What have you found, Nancy? What are the root causes then when what is it that we uncover? What is it that the C-suite are struggling with?
You may surprise you, Nick. The one thing that, or rather the root cause of most of our unfulfillment or dissatisfaction or whatever that cause us even doing things that we are unhappy about, like all the distractor, like overeating, overdrinking, smoking and all that, comes from childhood. And it's not necessarily that we have a bad childhood, but rather something when we were a child, all right, it affected us, and that was not addressed. And of course, in this world of busyness, right, we layer it, all right, and then we have all the other achievements to really cover it up and thinking that everything is, cozy and good. But of course, we do not live in a world of every day is a sunny day. So when there are moments that, hiccups or obstacles, then it start to eat into us, right? So it's coming from a childhood. And like I said, it's not necessarily like it got to come from violent or dark moments, but something that affected us as a child. So that is one very clear thing, even with myself and with practically everybody. Of course, there's some others that could be a trauma, maybe in their teens or young adult. That is also a possibility, but more so is from our childhood. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that you're working with a client and you uncover something that there's some pain there. There's something from the childhood that wasn't addressed, it wasn't healed. What should we do then if we uncover this in our adulthood? I could imagine that some of the clients might panic or worry. What should they do? How can we get help then?
No, in fact, interestingly, when we realize that our adult issue is coming from a certain childhood moment, I call it, like I said, it doesn't have to be dark and violent, then it's a realization that that's where it came from, but I'm not the child anymore. You get my point? I'm not the child anymore, but it was subconscious, because when the subconscious thing that we get affected, okay, I reframe it. When we are affected subconsciously, we do not even know it on the conscious. We only know it on the conscious as what we can see. Like I'm speaking with you now. My subconscious cannot recognize I'm speaking with Nick. My subconscious only detect feel good or feel bad. Yeah. So once we have that so-called realization, 60-70% of it would just like, just go away, in that sense of go away. Then the balance, say 30-40%, then we would have to work through it. For example, certain strategy, certain new habits, certain change of the way we think to start with. Or for some people, overthinking. There isn't, come on. So just it. It is what it is, right? And when we start overthinking, of course, then we are not happy. Anybody overthink cannot be happy, cannot feel good. Yeah.
Right, I like that. So it's about accepting our past for what it is and acknowledge this, and then make friend with it and move forward. I like that.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's fantastic. That's some good tips for the listeners right there. And but how can they get to this stage then? Yeah, you are a coach yourself, and are there self-help books or coaching, or what's the way? What would you recommend to a listener who realize that perhaps they have some challenges and issues? What should
Right.
they do next?
Obviously, the most effective way is to work with someone, because it's hard to see by yourself. Okay, I'm trained that way. So when I discover, I also had someone to help me to discover. Besides what I can realize, it could be some blind spots I can't see. So like this morning, I've got the C-suite, all right, CEO from a startup. It's not a startup as they've been around for about 6 years in the AI, blockchain, and cybersecurity. So he's already coming from good stock. I mean, really good stock. Young guy, 38, with 4 children, mine. I met the wife even, they're great, right? But there's still some things that he bounced with me, and then I'm able to help him to see probably what he could not see. And I've been working with him for the last 3 years. And his company actually grew because he's able to see things, able to strategize, able to see it in a different light. Perhaps I would like to put it that way. Yeah. So working with someone is definitely the key here, unless someone is actually DIY.
Mm.
Yeah.
And And I'm talking to a lot of senior executives these days. There's so many changes, there's so much disruptions, there's also the uncertainties in the workforce, there's layoffs. So people are not so safe in their jobs as they used to be. And that gives them a lot of worries, especially if you have a family to care for and so on. And what I hear also is that there's a lot of burnouts. People are challenged more and more. And any advice for those executives who are sort of running at full speed and still feel that they are falling short and they are anxious and so on? What should they do, Nancy?
When we focus on the future, that will create anxiety, always. And when we go and dwell with the past, it will make us feel depressed, right? So as I have a group tonight as I speak, all right? And one thing I emphasize with them is like, just focus on being in the now and be the best of your best. Right? By worrying about, what's to come on the retrenchment. But if you're so good at what you do, I mean, authentically good, the company wants you because a company cannot operate without people. But if someone keep focusing about the future and what's to come, then the mind is not here. And when the mind is not here, obviously the effectiveness will be somewhat wrapped off. I like to believe that. So just, just like what I've been doing too, I don't usually want to be bothered about what's to come. Not that I am oblivious about it, but what can I do? As I often say, control what you can control, don't control what you cannot control. All right. So I actually just, be very present, look at the strategy. What can I do? Deliver results, which is most important. And in the height of COVID, all right, I have my record-breaking month, record-breaking year after year. And all because, as I just mentioned, I just focus what I can deliver. I think that is really key.
Wonderful. The power of now and being in the moment. So that's some great advice there. And what about if we have a business leader? Perhaps there's some CEOs who are listening to this episode, Nancy. What should they do to take care of their teams then, to get them in the right mindset? Any tips for those leaders today?
For the leaders, I think first thing, again, like the word I said, authentic. Be authentic with your people and being truthful and, not only for oneself, sure, we all want to run the company a certain way, we want the organization a certain way, but just do remember everyone have their own personality, everyone wants things a certain way, not because they want to go against you, but you will have the understanding so that, being authentic, being truthful and understanding. I think it's easier to bridge whatever differences even one has. I mean, it's just like even sidetrack a little, even parents, right? Parents can be leader, right? Okay. I said that, don't just impose your will on your children. Don't impose what we strongly believe, which is important about what we believe. But when the word impose, then you are going to create a lot of tension, a lot of, a lot of unpleasantness, I'll put it that way. So being authentic, truthful, and of course, being understanding. That will help a lot in building the team and the people, and they will love you. Yes.
Wonderful, indeed, creating that coaching culture, which is so wonderful. And I think we live in a positive era. Coaching is becoming more popular in the workplace, also in Asia, which is fantastic. And Nancy, thank you so much for having been with us today. But before I let you go, is there any last message, anything you want to share with the listeners, perhaps some final tips for everyone?
Well, I think the last thing is, I know we're living in uncertain times. So resilience is super important. Tolerance is another. And third, of course, it may sound cliche, but it is still valid regardless where we are, love. And love is not the relationship of like even parental love or the intimate love. Love as that very positive energy. So if you have all these three, we are good. Anything good has to come down. It's just a wave. Anything that's not good has to come back up. just ride through the wave and we all be good. Right.
Thank you for that positive ending. And Nancy, if any of the listeners want to contact you to perhaps continue this conversation, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Of course, sorry, my email is easy, nancy@nancyho.net. Search me in LinkedIn. You'll find me, Nancy Ho. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nancy, for having been on the show. And thanks to all the listeners as well. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for listening to Leadership Conversations, the untold secrets of the C-suite. Thank you.